Well, hi there, it's Polly here. Whee, with unicorn juice. So, back in the saddle in the old studio. Christmas came a little bit early, and I got a Kickstarter. And it's a Kickstarter that I'd been waiting for quite some time for. I had done a review for you guys of a game called Ironsworn, which is an excellent fantasy role-playing game system. The same designer had decided to kickstart a science fiction game based upon the same system, and this is called Starforged, and it's been shipping over the last sort of month or two, so it will be available for like general commercial sale round about now, which is why this is probably an important review. So there we go, Starforged, and I have to say this is a brilliant piece of design work. It truly is. I'm not exaggerating when I say this is an absolutely stunning piece of work. Now, presentation-wise, the artwork and so on is just gorgeous. It's a hardcover book. You can see it's complete with multiple ribbons. I like that. But you also get deck of cards, and there's also a small book that's got all of your relevant charts and tables and so on, a reference book. What makes this game so interesting? All right, for a start, it's a role-playing game, but this role-playing game is designed so that it can be played solo, just one player on their own, no umpire. It can also be played cooperatively with a group of players, but no umpire. You're all playing characters in the fiction, and it can be played in the traditional style with a games master and with players, and of course it plays beautifully well that way. But you do have this solo and cooperative option, which is something you just don't see in role-playing games. So fabulous. So right up there, cheers to the designer. But this game is structured in a very interesting way. So first off, the game designer tips his hat and says the inspiration for this game has come from things like The Mandalorian, Firefly, and these sorts of things, a bit of Dune, etc. He wanted a universe that had a lived-in feel, that had cultures and societies, that didn't have ridiculous powers and weird super abilities, that didn't have ridiculous buckets of tech, so that players would have to rely on their own resources, shepherd resources. So it's a place where some resources and so on are a little bit scarce. Nice setting. It's human-centric, so there aren't aliens, there's just humans to choose from, but with that they're very clear. You can be any human type you wish, your gender choices, your sex choices, etc., completely open, and you're encouraged to have some fun. You make the game entirely yours. So there is a setting quiz, as it were. We essentially create the setting. There are questions about how you see the setting of the game that you're about to play. Now, you can pick from options for each category that it gives you, or you can randomize and roll. But a play group might want to discuss it. But that's things like the tech, ancient ruins and precursor races, factions. Is there religion? Are there ghosts? Are there psychic powers? How prevalent is technology? How does AI and robots, etc., work in this setting? And it's got some lovely choices, and they stay within the bounds that the designer has kept. Like, this isn't Star Wars with talky droids and ridiculous powers, but you can set up things where it's like, well, are there ghosts? Well, no, but people sort of believe in them. Or Spaces will tell you that sometimes drives have a strange effect on reality and people see stuff. Or like, yeah, we turned up, we found like a ship where like people had just been killed and it looked like some some dead guys had somehow risen up and killed them. We're sure that's what did it. So you can kind of fine tune your setting and its mythos. Now, the characters are created on a nice little sheet. You've got characteristics for things like your iron, how sturdy and so on you are, and how good you are in combat. Shadow, how deceptive and how manipulative you tend to be. They tend to be more persona characteristics, though you have of course got health and so on. They've got sliding scales on the side that you can use a paperclip to keep track of things like your health as you lose physical damage, your spirit as you get worn down or scared or what have you. And momentum. Momentum is very important. We shall get to that in a trace. The actual game system runs off 2d10 and 1d6. Now, when you want to do a ability check because you're doing some kind of skill roll or whatever, you roll 1d6, you add the number of the appropriate characteristic and any odds that you might have. Any extra bonuses because you've crept up on someone from behind, or you've got cool equipment bonuses or whatever. You roll that dice at the same time as you roll 2d10. You put in the adds for the characteristics and equipment bonuses and so on. You look at the scores of the 2d10. For each of the d10 that is equal to or less than the score of that modified d6 roll, that is a hit. So if you've got 2 hits, that is a strong result. Only 1 hit, that is a so-so result. No hits, that's a fail. Now, if you've got the double score, 2 hits, then you are in control of the situation. What you planned happened and happened well. If it's only 1 hit, you have a partial success, or you are essentially reacting rather than acting. So you're on your back foot a bit. Now you're in the car. Doubles on the d10s and so on. These are like criticals and critical failures, and they can have consequences when you get them for successes and failure. And you can consult the Oracle. Again, more of that later. Momentum. Now, as you perform different moves, the game kind of splits things that you do up into moves. What happens is you gain momentum, which is sort of power and favor and essentially, quite literally, initiative and momentum behind you as you have successes. If you're having a fight and you start like taking down guys, you're on a roll. It's a dogfight and you've managed to have some successes, blast your way through and whatever. Yahoo! Now you're getting some bonuses. That momentum will creep up. You'll be told as you get strong and not so strong hits. Boom! You're getting momentum. Anytime you make a roll, you can decide to substitute your momentum for the d6 roll, and you still get to add characteristics and equipment bonuses and so on. So that is your get out of jail free card. That is your yahoo! You got to hit the thermal exhaust port. That's what you use that for. That once you use that resets your momentum back down to its default level. Most characters will start off with a default level of like 2 momentum, so it'll always go down to 2. So it's always worth kind of using your momentum to replace a roll of 1. But if your character becomes injured or it loses its spirit and so on, that will temporarily set your momentum reset down. And it can in fact go down into negatives. And when you are down into negatives, you get all kinds of other penalties on you. You can also take like permanent damage and injuries, permanent psychological damage, permanent physical damage, these sorts of things, and they can permanently lower that momentum reset. So you've got to watch out. The other kind of role they've got are progress, essentially progress tracks. You've got a long track with boxes on it. Now, if you're doing something like conducting an amazing journey, you are threading your way through a torturous section of space, trying to find a a pathway in hyperspace that will lead you to a world. Or if you're on the ground, your ship's crashed and you're trying to reach civilization. Or if you've got a longer task, like you are trying to investigate, a murder or a missing persons case, or you're trying to track down clues. All these kind of much longer tasks, you've got this track of boxes. Now, depending on how difficult the task is, you start with several of these boxes already crossed off. As you progress, as you role play, and as you achieve things by making rolls and doing actions, you get to cross through the boxes, and essentially each one takes 4 ticks, sort of left, right, up, down, to completely fill it. When you wish to try and complete the task, you can make a roll against this whole thing and try and complete it, and you're essentially trying to roll on the number of boxes that you've got left. You're trying to get under that number, so you kind of don't want to rush it, but you might have a ton of little bonuses and so on, and you feel this is now the time. You can't be bothered plodding slowly along this investigative track. I've got a 50-50 chance of rolling and just doing it. However, if you roll and fail, your progress comes back a bit, because you kind of you scared the opposition, you took a wrong turn. So, lengthy adventure things are actually playable, are actually like part of the role play. I love it, because you often don't really get that coming through in role-playing games. A third thing this thing does really well is tension clocks. There's a circle which is divided into different segments, and these represent building tension in a scene or in a campaign or in a set chunk of scenarios. They are done for things like you've gone into that enemy base and you've triggered an alarm. Reinforcements are coming. The guards are going to come thundering in here. So that clock begins to inexorably start ticking around as you use activities. Every time you do, the umpire will cross these off because you are chewing up time until it triggers the effect. Roleplay may stop the clock. They can also be used for things like if you are guarding a convoy or something, or you're in a fight protecting someone, as you make rolls and attempts to, battle off enemies and so on and fail, then the clock starts to cross off sections, because that means that if you're guarding a convoy or something, the convoy is starting to take losses and might start, breaking up or exploding or what have you. Or, the fuzz, the heat's getting on you. These things keep track of this building tension. Again, it's a great little mechanism, and one that we don't see in a lot of games. And it really puts the pressure on. So, excellent piece of work there. Now the game it's kind of draws its inspiration from the Apocalypse system, which means that you do specific moves when you want to roll dice. It's got a huge list of these things, and they will be things like, I'm going to explore, I'm going to navigate, we're going to face the danger, I'm going to try and resist the harm, these sorts of things. The reason they're split up like this is because they will give you different consequences for those critical failures and so forth, and give you different suggestions of oracle charts for rolling on for penalties and story hooks and so on that go with this. Now, it's a very neat system. It's actually it's got an interesting thing I quite like called legacy. So as you gain experience, as you do things, as you achieve goals in the game, you've got these legacy tracks as well, and they are contacts that you make, they are experience that you've got, and they are your reputation as an adventurer, as a hero, and so on. And again, these are progress tracks that you tick off in the same way as a normal progress track, but as you tick off a full box, it gives you experience that you can now spend to get more assets and skills and so on for your characters. If your character dies, or you want to retire it, or whatever, one thing you can do is you can pass on your legacy. So you can kind of pass the torch on, I'm dying, son, but here, go save the people of the planet Rastalfrazan. You shall be the next mighty psycho knight. Here, take my lightsaber, son. You actually pass some of these legacies, contacts, and so on to someone else, in part or full. So yeah, I kind of like that. It's got this whole passing the torch on thing. As you design characters, you pick different assets that you can have. Now, if you're playing it as a solo character or as a group, you always get a ship of some kind, which is your command vehicle. These are kind of characters in themselves. They take danger, they get quirks, etc., etc. But you can also take companions in the form of NPCs, robots, lovable animal companions, etc. And other assets include things like skills and life paths and contacts and these sorts of things. As you gain experience, each of these, you'll pick different life paths as you do a character. So yes, I'm a medic and a pilot. I'm a bounty hunter and an investigator. You can spend that experience to gain more and more abilities under like the list of that life path. And the same goes for your other assets. You can draw more on the ship. You can fly it better as you become more and more attuned to it. You'll become more attuned to your weapons. So essentially, it's got this very nice space opera sort of ethos as the props and the gear around you all become part of your story. Now, what makes this game an absolute must for science fiction role-playing game players? So let's say you do not like that system. For some reason, you don't like the set moves and so on. It is a bit formal. It may not suit your group's play. But this book has the most spectacular resources for creating a science fiction universe in which to play a game. These oracles, now what they are is, they are essentially a series of random tables that throw out bits of story and hooks. Now, what the game takes also from Ironsworn, by the way, is vows. You make these vows, which are things you're trying to achieve, and you progress towards them. And so, okay, so it gives you these kind of things. I will revive the long-lost Order of Stellar Knights. I will find the bastards that killed my family, and I shall, fire them out of a very large cannon. I will find the lost tribe of humanity, and I shall seek a way back to our long-lost galaxy with my ragtag fugitive fleet. Yes, it took a lot of cues from the recent Battlestar Galactica remake as well. But let's say you didn't like that system. These Oracle resources are fantastic. They've got resources in there, in that one for designing your campaign setting. Great. But they've got resources in there for generating star systems, for generating planets, the settlements on planets, what the quirks of these places are, what their hidden stories are, what NPCs and people are there, what those people's names are, what their personalities are, what their hidden stories are, what's the technological quirks, the ecological quirks, and so on this place. They've got huge charts for exploring planets of all different sorts. They've got considerable charts for generating different types of planets and what kind of things will happen on them, what flora and fauna you come into them. There's a fantastic list of creatures, which are way better than things I normally see in most sci-fi games. Again, there's story hooks built into all of these things. There's charts for exploring precursor ruins, for exploring military ruins, for the machinations of different factions in areas. There are mishaps and quirks and penalties and so on for every conceivable type of equipment, for ships, for weapons. There are oracle charts for combat, so when you get those disasters and so on happening in combats, what sort of penalties are going to come in. Oh, okay, well, I got the guy, but I ran out of ammunition. I got the guy, but I overheated my damn laser and the thing's melted. I got the guy taken, some injuries, or it's flashed my trauma back to when my parents were fired out of that giant cannon into the sun. So it looks spectacular reference material, which you can just lift out and use whole for your preferred system, making this a wonderful mining resource for your other campaigns. Literally, I haven't seen anything done in this level of detail. It's beautiful. So, look, I think this is a real find. be coming out now. You'll be able to start getting this commercially now. Hardcover, and it's beautifully illustrated, clearly written, tons of examples, tons of graphic examples, so it reads clearly and beautifully and simply. That system of the D10 and the D6, that's a very nice system, you know, where you succeed and you're in control. You succeed, but you might not be. You're more reactive, or you're just kind of hanging in there. And the miss, very clever. The progress, the tension clocks. This is technically a great piece of game design, but as far as world building goes, this is a triumph, a real triumph. So look, really thoroughly recommended. This is a fantastic piece of work. Go out there, check it out, find a copy, and yeah, enjoy. Anyway, cheers people, and if you like the videos, by all means subscribe, and you know, hit the like button, and find me on Patreon. Go ahead, cheese.